From17 once again. This is my Uncharted brutal difficulty video walkthrough. This is chapter 13, it's called Sanctuary, and this level marks the point where this game really turns up its difficulty. So we're once again with Elena, and we've pushed up river to this monastery where things are going to get real interesting as the first enemy there throws a grenade at me, and we're just going to do the standard third-person cover trick to eke our way out of cover and return fire whilst being the smallest target possible for the enemy, because as you just witnessed, they hurt you incredibly quickly, and that's about to change. So did you notice what happened then, guys? I got shot once, it put me to death screen, a second bullet would have finished me off, the standard brutal rule set. Well, it's about to change, and I find it really interesting because it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but it's going to hopefully be something that we can analyse and have some fun with. There is a pistol coming up called the Beretta 92FS, potentially, or a 92F. I forget what it is on this game because I don't think it's quite spot on. It's essentially, it's a Beretta. It's a gun that you've seen in many films, in many video games. You've used it tons of times. Well, in this game, on Brutal, it will kill you in one bullet. And I don't know why. It's a very strange thing. You're going to see it coming up here because I think this first guy has it, and you can always tell the people who have it because they have hats. You notice how he has the hat and he has like the shades? That character variant with hats and shades will have the Beretta. This guy has a Desert Eagle. If you know anything about guns, the Desert Eagle is a higher caliber than the Beretta, because the Beretta's of course a 9mm, and if you were to test both of those bullets to see which one would do the most damage, the Desert Eagle would win this because of its increased caliber. In this game, the Desert Eagle is also a one-hit kill, but it's gimped because it's on the end of a laser sight. You see how this guy in like the flight helmet has a laser sight aimed at me? He has to acquire a target and then you're given a grace period of a few seconds before he shoots. And you will probably never die to a Desert Eagle because of that. For some unknown reason, it's incredibly balanced so much that it's almost pointless, because you will always put down the Desert Eagle people unless you are not very good on the reflexes or maybe your aim is quite slow. But even then, you're probably going to do just fine. But that pistol there, the Beretta 92FS, is ridiculous, and when you use it, it's just like a normal pistol. You can get one-shot headshots, you can get 3 to 4 body shots to kill, and it's just really fun. It's my favourite weapon in the game, but when they use it, it murders. And I was going to save a piece of footage where I display this happening, because I voiced it earlier in this walkthrough, and some people were wondering if I meant the lasers with the Desert Eagle, but it's not what I meant, and some other people don't remember experiencing it. But I have a piece of footage where I die 4 times to a guy who has a Beretta, and then the guy on the corridor later on shoots me with an M4, which is an assault rifle, which is a considerably bigger bullet, and it does less damage in the game. And of course, this is a video game, guys. It has nothing to do with real-life military ordnance and weaponry. But at the same time, you would think the hierarchy of guns would reflect their damage. In a lot of games, video games set a precedent that the pistol is the starting weapon and the assault rifle is the weapon you get later because it's better and you need it then. But this game's like, nope, pistol's best gun in the game. So I kind of like that. But this is really tough. You can skip this fight. You can completely get past it, go to the left, go up the stairs, go on the balcony, drop down, and then hit that door. But the problem is, the enemy kill you so quickly, and you can get killed at any moment, that it isn't really a viable, reliable strategy. So instead we're going to do it by hitting up on this corner, and essentially swapping between our two aimers to look left and right. You can get flanked at any point here by people, and depending on what gun they have will depend on how dangerous it is. This is a shotgunner with a spaz. He is dangerous, but he's actually the better one to get there, because if it's somebody who has an automatic weapon, they generally don't give you a chance to react, and that's where this gets difficult. But in the 2 times that I've done this, I have not been flanked enough to warrant any true fear of it, but I just know that AI can be random and it could happen to you. So be very tentative, keep on top of your movement, and just move away from where the enemies are. And always in any kind of extended sequence, use the assault rifle or your secondary weapon first, because in my opinion, the pistols in this game are just too precious to waste. So you want to use them later on, after you've got rid of your rifles. And it just stems from the fact that the pistols are accurate. They don't waste bullets, they do good damage, and they go where you put the reticle, whereas some of the assault rifles, it really feel underpowered in some ways. The M4 is better than the AK, but I don't think it's eye-openingly better in a way that you're going to notice it too much, because I still think that the M4 is really, really lacking. But the pistols never fail me, so they're the ones I find very comfortable, and they're the ones that I find myself using. That right there is a Desert Eagle. You do not want to see what happens if he lets that laser linger on you. Move forward, be careful, don't put yourself out in a cover, and don't trust the music here either. The music can be deceptive in this game. I've mentioned it a few times, but it's worth repeating because you think it's clear and it's not. Nathan just spoke then, and his movement often dictate when the fight is over sometimes, but I think this one is still going. So we're going to be tentative, but we're going to try and find targets, and due to the fog, it can be quite difficult to see in this particular sequence. A few things you need to know. Elena can die, believe it or not. I know, right? I have no understanding why games still do this, and I appreciate that this game came out, 2007? But having allies that can be killed by the AI in a firefight that's already tricky to survive in is just unnecessary frustration. And I didn't even know she could die in the game, in all honesty, until I came to this fight when I was recording Brutal, because I was trying to skip it. And when I'm trying to skip it, everybody focuses on Elena, of course, and you're not there to thin the numbers. And I don't know if they just got lucky shots or if it was just a bad day for her, but she died and I failed. So you need to be aware that as much as she will often hold her own and you'll never have to worry about her, there are those rare moments where you can fail state because of her, so be very careful. But you can hear people on balconies shooting automatic weapons. It can be tricky to ascertain where they are. I think these people are on the stairs shooting at Elena. Yes, they are. So they're just to my left here, but I'm making sure nobody shoots me in the back if I try and kill these people. So there's a grenade. It sounds like it did something, and the music alters, but I'm very scared of coming up here, because when you skip this sequence, if you try and do it, you will spawn two people by moving on those steps. And the two people are not necessarily the hardest things in the world because you can pre-grenade them, but at this moment, after we've been fighting for a few minutes, the last thing I want is a spawn to land on top of me and put me in a bad spot. And this doorway is bad too. There's a guy that can sometimes be sat on the stairs or running around the room, and he has a shotgun. I don't have to tell you to respect shotguns in this game. They are a one-hit kill at the right range, and the right range can have deceptive range. But once he's done, feasibly, you can do the mantling in that room and skip this section. But I didn't want to do that, and you'll notice Nate put his gun away, which generally tells you that you're done. So now you can move around picking up all the weapons, and hopefully it's not a ruse where you suddenly get shot by somebody on a balcony. Which can happen, but hopefully it doesn't happen to you. And no doubt you're here for the next fight, because I know you're here for the next fight, because I would have been here for the next fight had I not done what I do in said fight. So the next sequence is probably the hardest shootout in the game. It is a very wide open space, there's a lot of enemies all around you, there's a guy in the tower, there's people with shotguns, there's grenades, there's a lot of bad stuff coming up. But the beautiful thing about it is you can run directly to the area you're meant to go and completely skip it. Some people have issues skipping fights when they play games because they feel that it's, it looks bad on them, it's like a valor thing, like an honor thing. I don't give a shit. When I'm playing and making a walkthrough, I'm trying to make, essentially, the best way through a level. And this next fight coming up involves a lot of skill, a lot of luck, and a lot of bullshit. So if I can give you a strategy where you run like a crazy person, and you'll die maybe 2 or 3 times before you get this, and you can get away from having to fight for a good solid 5 minutes against really hostile opponents, to me that's just the best way of displaying what you're meant to do. Obviously, if you're here to challenge yourself, if you're here to better yourself and you want to get the most out of Uncharted, I recommend you fight it, because it's an educational fight. It'll teach you how to deal with those kind of odds and those kind of situations, and it'll also make you appreciate Brutal a little bit more, because it's a very, very tough sequence. But it can be skipped, so do with it what you will, guys. But this is going to be some downtime before we get to it, while we do some platforming and some barrel shooting. So I'm just going to just kind of thank everybody that's watching the Uncharted stuff. I know people wanted me to do these back when they were first out, and I wish I had, because, that's when they would have probably been at their most successful and when people would have needed them the most. But I'm the kind of guy that if I'm not digging a series or I don't want to do something, I find it difficult to do it. And I didn't do it, so I'm sorry that I didn't do it for you kind folks who wanted it, but I've done it eventually, so hopefully that helps. But at the beginning here, run forward, go into cover, chuck a few grenades over there, and then proceed to spam roll and run. And if you get stuck against cover, blame the game and get really angry like I do, or don't spam roll and potentially get shot. It's entirely up to you, but the only difficult part about this is getting Mr. Nathan Drake off the bloody cover, because this dude's like Velcro. But look at this. Look, I can't get in the room, and I should have died there, but I didn't. And there you go. The hardest fight in the game completely ran past, which I didn't even know you could do until I suffered through that fight, and then realised, hang on a second, there's no barrier here, there's no cutscene here. I can skip that fight, restart the chapter, get back to it, and skip it in a minute. So, that's the best strategy through that room, I'm almost guarantee you. And then you have this sequence, which I've never had trouble with this one. I find this to be a really fun particular fight. There's a couple guys on balconies, a couple of guys below you, and you don't have the best cover, but you can make the cover work. And I really appreciate the cover in this game. When I think back to things like Uncharted 4, where a lot of the cover in that game is not safe at all because of just how dynamic that game is. And it's that funny thing where the AI in that game is clever, the world is progressive and dynamic in how it moves and how it changes depending on what happens during the battle, and that's normally something that I would really compliment and really commend. But it's one of the things that led me to not enjoy Uncharted 4, which sounds kind of silly, doesn't it? Where I'm talking a lot about innovations with game design, and then we have this really innovative and demanding mechanic, and I ended up really hating it. And it's a weird contradiction. And I don't know why I didn't like that part of Uncharted 4 as much as I would have liked to. And I've discussed it ad nauseum in the Uncharted 4 walkthrough, in the brutal guides for this one and the third Uncharted game. So if you're interested in my thoughts on that, guys, it's well documented in my videos. And we just have a puzzle coming up here, which all you have to do is check your notebook, and then you have to correlate the positions of the compass to the way the statues are facing. And then you just spin them, and it's going to open up the next mission. But going back to what I was saying, making videos at the right time is probably the most important aspect of any kind of video project. Other than being first, making it at the right time is really important. And it's important because you capture the spirit of the release of the game, or you capture the moment where the game is fresh and different to what's happening. And it doesn't necessarily mean when it's released. It can be a year later when there's a downtime in games, and then you start playing something like an Uncharted, and everybody gets to have that wonderful nostalgia trip of, oh yeah, Uncharted's awesome, remember guys? And everybody does the memberberry thing, and then they go back and play it as well. So making stuff like this at the right time is as I've said, is more important than even the newest of releases. So I do lament that in a lot of ways, but I'm hoping that because this is so far off the base when the game came out, because the game came out last November, didn't it? So it's almost been a year since it was originally released, I think, which is a long time in a game's lifespan. So maybe this can give people the nostalgia vibes to make them go back and play the games, which would be a nice saving grace.
This looks familiar.
Because, when you watch somebody play video games, doesn't it make you want to play it? It's that weird thing. It can be multiplayer, it can be single player, it doesn't really matter what it is. You watch it, it triggers that part of your brain that remembers all the good times and all those nice feelings you have associated with it, and then you go and put it on, and especially if it's a multiplayer, you jump in, and within 2 games you're already angry, pissed off, throwing stuff, and wanting to turn it off. But just that moment of watching somebody play gets you so pumped that you forget all the bad. And I think that's one of the wonderful things that videos on YouTube can do for people. They can remind you that, remember when this was awesome and when you really liked it? That was a good time. You might never have that again, but that was a bloody good time. Thank you for watching. You take care now.